Dear friends, one of the greatest contributions of the late Pope Francis is that he wanted us to concentrate on a church that is synodal. The synod on synodality of the church is really marvelous. In a synodal church, there are not a few who alone have the monopoly of being active, while others are passive. Each member has to contribute to the mission of Christ in the synodal church. Synodality, in fact, has its emphasis already in the teachings of Vatican II. Vatican II understood the church as a communion, as the people of God. By baptism and confirmation, there is a fundamental equality of dignity and action among all Christ faithful. That means the whole church has to be active in carrying to the world the love of Christ, the teachings of Christ. The whole church and all Christ faithful have to animate the whole world with the values of the gospel. We speak of common priesthood. All Christ faithful participate in the priesthood of Christ. They participate in the teaching, sanctifying, and governing functions of Christ. While there are some who are by divine institution called to ministerial priesthood, the ministerial priesthood has to be at the service of the common priesthood. And all of us, from the Pope to the least lay members of Christ faithful, exercise the same mission, and we are called to be in communion while also participating in the mission of Christ. There needs to be communion and working together with the Roman Pontiff by all the bishops. For that matter, no bishop can exercise his ministry cut off from the Roman Pontiff. We speak of their exercising their ministry always cum Petro et sub Petro. Communion with the Roman Pontiff is an essential element for all the bishops to exercise their ministry. And all Christ faithful, and especially priests, ought to be in communion with other priests because they participate in the same priesthood of Christ and they work for the same cause, that is, building up of the body of Christ. There are also in the church consecrated persons who profess the evangelical counsels, some through public vows, others through other sacred bonds. They also need to be in communion with one another and with other members of the Catholic Church. Then we have the lay members of Christ faithful who need to be in communion with the religious, with the priests, with the bishops, with the Roman Pontiff, and there needs to be unity of purpose in carrying out the mission of Christ. The problem comes when some in the church think that they are the only active members of the church. Each member of the body contributes, and each member needs to be respected. It's all right because of the sacrament of orders. Some among the people of God are entrusted with some special responsibility. It doesn't mean it takes away the right and duty of other members of Christ faithful in participating in the mission of the church. Pastors in the church have to get the cooperation of all categories of the faithful. They should not presume to accomplish everything by themselves. They need to listen to other members of the people of God individually and even structurally. One of the synodal conclusions is this: we need to have truly operating structures of participation in the church. A synodal church can be truly synodal only when these participatory structures at different levels function well, not merely in name. At the universal level, the Code of Canon Law speaks about the Ecumenical Council, which is the gathering of the Roman Pontiff with all the bishops of the world. This is very rare. The last Ecumenical Council we had was the Second Vatican Council. But then there is another participatory structure, we can call it, that is the Synod of Bishops. Periodically, the Synod discusses themes and issues to assist the Roman Pontiff in the governance of the Church, especially in the exercise of his pastoral office, concerning more important themes for the mission of the Church. We had the Synod on synodality in 2 sessions during the last 2 years. And so many synods were on different topics, on different categories of the people of God. For instance, the Synod on the laity, the Synod on ministerial priesthood, Synod on formation of the priests, Synod on the religious. The fruit of the Synod was Vita Consecrata, the post-synodal apostolic exhortation, the Synod on the Eucharist, the Synod on the Word of God, the Synod on the bishops. These synods have contributed immensely for the renewal of the Church. The synodal Church must look forward to more and more segments of the people of God participating in these synods, in assisting the Holy Father for the pastoral governance of the Church. At the national level, we have the Conference of Bishops, which is the gathering or assembly of all the bishops of a country. At the local level, we have the Provincial Council, the Metropolitan, together with the suffragans, meets at the provincial level and decides certain things for the province. Sometimes a number of provinces are joined together into a region, and they also contribute in their own way and discuss issues of common concern. More important structures of participation, my dear brothers and sisters, are at the diocesan level. Indeed, the Synod on synodality want these structures to be really active. useful, dynamic, and really contribute to the growth of the church. Canons 460 to 68 speak about the diocesan synod. It is high time, as the fruit of the synod on synodality, each diocese really takes efforts to conduct a diocesan synod. It is almost like a chapter for the diocese, as religious have their own general chapter. Only that the general chapters are obligatory in nature. The diocesan synod is more optional. Otherwise, for the renewal of the congregation of a religious institute, the general chapter contributes. Likewise, the diocesan synods also will surely contribute to the renewal of the whole diocese. Then the law speaks about the diocesan finance council, which is described from canons 492 to 494. The diocesan finance officer, the members of the diocesan finance council, all these meet together to assist the bishop in the governance of the temporal goods, in the administration of the temporal goods. Sometimes it may happen that they are merely in paper. It is high time, as the fruit of the synod, every diocesan finance council, which is already mandatory in the Code of Canon Law, functions properly. Another important and mandatory structure of participation at the diocesan level is the Council of Priests, or the Senate of Priests, or also known as Presbyteral Council. It is described from canons 495 to 501. The Presbyteral Council assists the bishop in the governance of the diocese. It is representative in character and consultative in nature, and if it functions in accordance with the law and in accordance with the diocesan statutes, surely it will produce enormous fruits. Another consultative structure that is born of the Presbyteral Council itself is the College of Consultors. Though they are called consultors, sometimes their vote is decisive, especially in matters of finance, and more in many matters for the diocesan administrator who is temporarily governing the diocese. This is described in Canon 502. In addition, we have another structure of participation, that is the Diocesan Pastoral Council, to plan and execute pastoral initiatives, to give suggestions, to give recommendations to the diocesan bishop. And every diocese, if it has a pastoral council, it will always be beneficial. Though it is not strictly obligatory, it is not purely optional. And bishops must consider the importance of this diocesan pastoral council, which has to meet at least once a year. Then the church will be more participatory. In this context, we should not forget two of the important structures of participation at the parish level. One such is mandatory, obligatory, in accordance with Canon 537. It is the Diocesan Finance Council. And then the other, which is also equally important, though it is not mandatory by universal law, It can be made obligatory by the diocesan bishop after consulting the presbyteral council for his diocese. That is described in general terms in Canon 536. We speak of so many commissions at the national level, at the regional level, and even at the diocesan level. Commission for laity, commission for youth, commission even for canon law, commission for doctrine, commission for so many areas of church life. We should remember first and foremost, these commissions are important, but more important is the establishment and real functioning of the mandatory participatory structures at the diocesan and parish level. It would be really odd if we concentrate on so many other commissions and pious associations while we neglect, for instance, the Parish Finance Council and the Parish Pastoral Council and the mandatory structures of Presbyteral Council, College of Consultors, and Diocesan Finance Council. Let us really give the necessary importance to these councils. Only then the Synodal Church will not be the church of the few, but the church of everyone. People have to be listened to. People have to contribute. People have to be respected in the church. Sometimes people say all these participatory structures are useless because they are only consultative. My dear brothers and sisters, one participates in the governance, in the building of the church, not only every time with a decisive vote, but also by giving counsel or advice, by manifesting their opinion. You know, superiors are chosen, are appointed, or elected based on their own credibility, quality, intellectual, and more moral qualities. Such superiors, we should believe, have conscience. They are capable of following the norms. Even if it is a consultative vote, let us not hesitate to give our consultation, our counsel or advice. Only a very, very bad superior, a heartless superior, will ignore the advice, honest counsel of the majority. So let us not say it is only namkevas, it is useless because it is only consultative. My dear brothers and sisters, every consultative body must respect each of the members. It does not matter who is victorious. The majority should not think the minority is useless. The majority should not think of bulldozing the opinion of majority. With Jesus, even the minority is always the majority. What is important is we listen to all the members of a council or a committee and then arrive at consensus in the light of faith with charity. Sometimes people tend to consider our councils or structures of participation or committees in accordance with the secular model. One thing we should remember, there is a difference between the secular model of power and the power in the church. Power in the church is always vicarious. It is power of Christ. The source of the power in the church is sometimes by canonical mission, by appointment from the Pope or from the bishops. In the secular model, it is not always like that. The power may be emanating from the people. So, with this difference in mind, we have to understand power in the church. Power in the church is to be exercised in a spirit of service according to the mind and heart of Christ, who came not to be served but to serve. Ecclesiastical offices are all councils or structures of participation are instruments of diaconia, service. It is not to be a sign of prestige or to show that you are higher than others. This should not be forgotten. Sometimes, my dear brothers and sisters, the failure of so many councils is due to lack of preparation. As we always say, if you don't prepare, you are only preparing to fail. So every meeting has to be meticulously prepared. The agenda must be known in advance by the members, that they may come prepared for the same. Those in charge of organizing any meeting or those who have to convoke the meetings must supply the members with the necessary information. In some other cases, when people come for the meeting, all are not able to really give their opinion sincerely. Though sometimes the superiors say, we are ready to listen, they do not create the necessary atmosphere of listening. What is important is each member is given the necessary opportunity to speak, necessary freedom to speak. The meeting must not be allowed to be hijacked by a select few. Sometimes there are people in the meetings, there are counselors or participants who do not give their opinions at all, or give their opinions but not sincerely. There needs to be sincere sharing. Sometimes people ask me, should they represent the group's opinion or give their own opinion? In fact, they can always share the opinion of the group. But then what is more important is, in accordance with their conscience, in accordance with the knowledge they have gathered, they have to take responsibility and give their deliberate, considered, well-reflected opinion. Some people think that they can talk anything and everything, and then they can abuse the leaders or other members in the group. You have the right to say, but then you should always say it with reverence, with humility. As St. Peter says in his first epistle, we have to speak with reverence and humility. Dignity of the individuals must be respected. Common good must be kept in mind. Nothing against the faith and morals can be said. So, according to your competence, according to your expertise, knowledge, you can always contribute. But Christ faithful, while sharing the opinion, they should always respect others. Even if you say the truth, say it with reverence and humility. My dear brothers and sisters, the Synod, with a lot of preparation, has come to a conclusion. The Synod's success must be concretely realized in each of our parishes through the participatory structures, through the parish pastoral council and parish finance council first and foremost. And through the participatory structures at the diocesan level, if need be, by conducting a diocesan synod, by having regular meetings of the diocesan pastoral council, and then, of course, the diocesan finance council, which must really show to the world, likewise the parish finance council, that you are transparent, accountable. There is no hide and seek with regard to the management of finance. And then a very, very special, important participatory structure or structures together with the Presbyteral Council, the College of Consultors. Let us not be discouraged by the past failures in really operating these structures of participation. Let us draw new lessons from the impetus given by the Synod on synodality and have a participatory church by really activating, making new the structures of participation. God bless you.